Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Tito Ortiz's children to outlive him. And I'm here to talk about the second fight of the night, Dan Argueta versus Ronnie Lawrence. Ronnie Lawrence is 31 years old. He's got 1 inch of height, and he's giving up 2 inches of reach to 29-year-old Dan Argueta. They both have 10 fights as a pro. 8-2 for Ronnie, 9-1 for Dan. Ronnie, let's start with him. He's got 4 wins via knockout, 4 wins via submission, and his 2 losses both come via decision. They're to good fighters. Steve Garcia, current UFC fighter, beat him in a 3-round decision. Dropped him at the very end of round 3 as well. And Saeed-Yakub Kakhramonov beat him by decision last year. That was a very dominant performance. That guy should be in the UFC, but, I don't know. Something with this contract or whatever. I can't understand why they got rid of him. Must have been money. But he absolutely belongs in the UFC, especially based on that Ronnie Lawrence performance, just the way he looked, and even the way he looked in the fight that got him cut. But anyway, Ronnie Lawrence, he is a very good wrestler, first and foremost, Ronnie, and he's a damn good striker himself. He had a war with Mana Martinez, in which he didn't look good in the end there. Mana had him hurt badly, dropped him twice. I think it might be ruled as once, but he dropped him twice in like the span of 1 second, and he was all over him. But Ronnie survived, and before that, Ronnie had hurt Mana Martinez, dropped him, and he looked really good on his feet, and of course on the ground as well. Ronnie takes down everybody he beats multiple times. He beat Vince Cachero, ripped him to the mat. Jose Johnson on the Contender Series ripped him to the mat 12 times. 8 times versus Caceres. 6 times versus Mana Martinez. He's a wrestling beast. And of course he was taken down 10 times by Saeed-Yakub Kakhramonov. Just goes to show the levels and all that. But I really like Ronnie Lawrence as a fighter. I think these guys are both young and developing into good fighters. I like both of them, to be honest. I really like Dan Argueta as well. He's shown a lot in the little I've seen of him. We saw him make his debut under very tough circumstances. Up a weight class on short notice against Damon Jackson, who, say what you will about him now after the knockout loss to Ige, but that guy's a very good fighter. And he's which should have been a very bad matchup for Dan Argueta. And Dan was in there to the final bell. He looked really good in a dominating loss, kind of. He was dominated there, conceded a lot of control, but that's Damon Jackson. He's got the legs. He can wrap up a triangle and sit on your back forever. And he backpacked Dan, but Dan looked very composed there. And after that, he beat Nick Aguirre. That was a dominant performance for Dan Argueta. And I think Nick Aguirre took that fight on short notice. I forget who he was replacing or whatever. But either way, I'll confuse him with Nick Fiore. But anyway, Dan Argueta, he has 9 wins, 2 via knockout, 4 via submission, 3 via decision, and the 1 loss to Damon Jackson. Of course, he did lose on the Ultimate Fighter as well to Ricky Tercios. That was an even fight, but then Ricky out-hustled him in the end, won round 3. I thought Dan was fading a little bit. He's gotten some solid victories before coming to the UFC. Myron Santos, he drowned him, got a 3rd-round finish. Diego Silva, that was a 5-rounder, and he looked good doing that. Nick Aguirre, he beat in his last fight. He's also 5-1 as an amateur. I think Dan Argueta, I think a lot of him is a fighter. I just think primarily this is a battle between 2 wrestlers, and I feel like Ronnie Lawrence is the better wrestler. So I'm siding with Ronnie Lawrence. But I'm not betting on it. I think a lot of Dan Argueta. I'm staying away from this one. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Dan Argueta won. And to be honest, I see a little bit of value in Dan Argueta winning by decision at plus 230. Neither guy's ever been finished. They've shown they can take it, even being out-wrestled. And I do think Dan Argueta, it wouldn't be conventional wrestling that would win him a decision. It would be scrambling. I do think he's a guy that's sound defensively against jiu-jitsu, and in the little in-betweens or whatever, even if he loses the takedown battle, he could scramble and end up winning the top position battle. So this one could go either way, but I'm staying away from it. I'm just going to enjoy this fight. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.